Okay. Hi, everybody, to who's tuned in today, or if you're going to watch this on the replay later. My name is Olivia Henderson. I'm the academic liaison here in the Digital Marketing Institute in Dublin. We're kicking off a first in a series of Google Hangouts that we're going to run through 2015. And our first topic for our first session is SEO Trends for 2015. And our guest today is Barry Adams, who is an SEO expert. He lectures with us frequently, mostly in Belfast and in the UK, and he works for Polemic Digital. So welcome, Barry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm going to kick off with a few questions. We're going to go through a few topics, and then what we'll do at the end of our conversation, we'll open it to any Q&A or questions that any of you submit, and then we will answer them at the end, so it doesn't interfere with the flow of the conversation. So, Barry, we've seen a lot of changes in SEO in the last year. We had a lot of changes in Google's algorithms and updates, Penguin, Hummingbird, Panda, and so on. What's coming in 2015? What are the big things that we need to look out for from a Google perspective and also from a website perspective? What's going to be the big impacts or factors for 2015?
Yeah, we see a little bit of a hint of that already in, for example, Google now emphasizing mobile a lot more and having announced that they're making mobile usability a ranking factor and rolling out a tool in Google Webmaster Tools that allows you to see where things go wrong on the mobile experience for your website. So I fully expect that to become a very big thing for Google in 2015, that they are going to increasingly focus on the mobile user experience, because mobile search is probably the only part of search that is still really, really growing and growing really fast, and Google is intent on claiming dominance in mobile as they have in desktop search. So that's going to be very, very huge. I also expect more Panda and Penguin updates. We have seen intermittent updates on Panda and Penguin in 2014 and 2015. The signals are there that it's going to be continuous rolling updates, so you don't have a fixed date like 29th of October for a Panda update, but it will be almost continuous refresh of websites' rankings in Google search, depending on how well they adhere to the various Panda and Penguin best practices.
How good are Google at communicating these updates to the algorithms, and is it a matter of just playing catch-up after they've been issued to the marketplace?
Yeah, they're not
or to their search engine?
Yeah, they're not particularly good at announcing them. Usually we detect them after the fact, and then Google either confirms or denies there's been a proper update. So it is something you're going to have to keep an eye out continuously, and usually you'll find out you've been hit by a Panda or a Penguin filter when it's already too late, when you see the cliff on your graph and your traffic is just vanished. So you just have to be a lot more careful nowadays and prepare for these things and not just keep pushing the envelope until it goes wrong. You probably want to have a bit of a think about the kind of tactics you want to employ and the kind of long-term sustainable SEO you want to do.
Are there any particular tools out there that would allow a business or a website to quickly check the impact on their website or their rank based on a recent algorithm update? Is there anything that users could employ to help them see if their rank has decreased, for example, as a result of the algorithm changes?
Google Webmaster Tools is probably your best bet for a quick look at how many impressions your website has and what keywords you rank on. Google Analytics or whatever web analytics you use, of course, if you see your organic search traffic fall off a cliff, that's usually a pretty strong sign. What I think is increasingly more important is for websites to actively monitor their own backlink profiles. So use a tool like Majestic or Monitor Backlinks or Link Risk to stay on top of your own website's link profile and detect if someone has built spam links to your website, either intent, but on purpose or as a form of negative SEO. And then, of course, use the disavow tool whenever you see bad links being built to your website to preempt any penalties that might occur.
Yeah, I think people sometimes are a little bit scared to use the disavow tool. I think when you use it through Google Webmaster Tools, you're prompted about maybe 3 or 4 times. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you absolutely sure? because there's no way back really, and there is a time issue as well. It has to be reviewed. Excuse me. It's not the simplest process. So hopefully a lot of businesses won't.
Yeah, I think they do that on purpose.
Sorry?
That it's not a tool that should be used by beginner SEOs. It's something that you want to be careful about what sites you disavow and which ones you don't, because you might just ruin your link profile. If you disavow too many websites that have legitimate links to your website, it could mean that those links will get discounted, and then will also have a negative impact on your rankings and your visibility in search. So you want to be careful about disavowing. But on the other hand, if you're sure that links are worthless and are spam links, you probably want to disavow them before you get penalized for them, because it's easier to prevent the penalty than to fix it afterwards.
Okay. Can I ask, just continuing on from that, other things to watch in 2015? What about the impact of social presence, social signals? How does Google, for example, analyze how well you do on Facebook or Twitter? How important is that? Are there key factors businesses need to bear in mind as to what they do on those channels that significantly will impact on their page rank or authority online?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion about how social media plays into SEO, because when you look at, for example, the SEO correlation studies, you tend to see a very strong correlation between Facebook likes and shares and Google Plus likes and shares and high rankings. But look, if you take Facebook as an example for one, Google doesn't actually have access to that data. Google doesn't know about likes and shares on Facebook, because Facebook prevents Google from spidering and indexing its website. What actually happens is that social media is part of a longer chain of events where a piece of content can go viral on social media and get shared a lot and spread around a lot, and that means more people see it, and that actually increases the chances of people linking to it from their own blogs and their own websites. And those links and mentions, they do carry value versus the social media mentions which are practically invisible to Google. So social signals directly don't cause higher rankings, but they are part of a chain of events that allows your content to do better. And Rand Fishkin wrote about this recently, and I've written about this back in 2013, that you need to see these factors as predictors rather than as actual causal factors, where if a piece of content does really well on social media, you can predict it will do well in organic search as well.
Okay. So it really comes down to more of a content marketing factor, that if you create very engaging content that is visible through your social channels, that's going to have an indirect advantage to your organic rank, hopefully, in search engines.
Yes. I find that nowadays, if you don't do content marketing as part of your SEO, you're practically trying to run a race with one leg tied behind your back. It's just much harder to do that. Content marketing for me ticks two different boxes in the overall SEO picture. It helps the relevance of your website to make your website more relevant for the right keywords that you're targeting, but it also helps your authority by generating links and mentions on your website online. So it really is a very powerful tactic in the SEO toolbox, and something websites really need to embrace if they want to be successful in organic search.
How about I personally have an impression that a website will perform better in Google search, maybe not in the other search engines, if they use Google business tools quite effectively. So if they are active with Google Webmaster Tools, YouTube Analytics, Google products per se, link them, integrate them, validate them. Does Google give preference to these more users that tend to use their tools more in a favor? Does it see them in a more favorable light?
That's a tough one to answer. I mean, we know for a fact that there is no link between AdWords, for example, and organic search. Google really keeps those as separate as they can, because the moment there's even a hint of impropriety there, that, for example, with a big AdWords spend, your organic rankings will go up. Google will be sued into oblivion. But usually, businesses spend a lot of money on AdWords, also spend a lot of money on SEO, so they tend to, do well in both areas. On the other hand, if you use videos as part of your content marketing, you want to use YouTube, because YouTube does have a preferred visibility in Google search results. For example, the video snippets, those little snapshots that you get in Google search results of a video, they only show up for YouTube now, and maybe for a select few other video hosting websites, but primarily for YouTube. So if you host your own videos or use a very obscure video hosting platform, you will lose that advantage. And of course, YouTube itself has a lot of authority and value, so YouTube videos tend to rank higher purely by virtue of being hosted on YouTube. And like you said, Google Plus and Google Maps, very important for businesses to claim their presence there and optimize their presence there, because Google uses those factors in its search results. And especially on branded search, if someone types in your brand name, you want to make sure that your information is there, which is pulled from Google Plus. Together with your latest Google Plus posts and your Maps locations and all of that, it gives you a richer search result when people search for your brand name. And that then, of course, increases the chance people will click on your own website result rather than on an ad that a competitor might have on your brand name.
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it, that you if you're going to use all of these different tools that Google offer, that you try to connect them as much as possible. Excuse me. Under
Exactly.
a name.
I mean, especially when it comes to a tool like Google Webmaster Tools, which is basically a free tool that Google gives you that gives a wealth of information about how Google views your website and any potential issues it finds with your website. So there is really no reason not to use Google Webmaster Tools. You have to use Google Webmaster Tools and look at the data that Google provides for you there. For me, whenever I do SEO with a client, the first point is always Webmaster Tools, because it gives me so much information about how Google views your website and any potential problems the website might have.
Okay. What else was I going to say? Do you find it a challenge when you're dealing with clients or prospective businesses that there is a certain level of unpredictability about SEO, that you can't necessarily guarantee a position or a rank? Is it becoming easier for SEO specialists, or is it becoming easier for businesses to kind of filter out the noise? As an SEO expert yourself, I mean, what would be your typical approach for a business if they say, look, my rank is really bad, I need to get on the first page of search results. What can you do for me? Can you guarantee me? What am I paying you for? Is it a challenge? Is it getting easier or harder?
Actually, I find it getting easier because more businesses know more about SEO nowadays and understand that there is no such thing as a page one guarantee. Any SEO company that guarantees you top rankings, don't do business with them, because they're either using spam or B, they have no idea what they're doing. You have to be very, very careful about that, because you're aiming at a moving target in SEO. Google's algorithms are being continuously updated. And in 2013, they said they had over 500 little tweaks and updates to the algorithm, which is more than one a day. On top of that, your competitors aren't exactly sitting still either, doing their best to get up the rankings as well. So you're aiming at a very fast-moving target. The only thing that you can guarantee as an SEO provider is to put the effort in. And I think it's very important, if you provide SEO services, to be entirely transparent about what you do and why you do it, so that you show to your client what their money actually gets spent on. The results are implied, not necessarily guaranteed. Now, what I always say to my clients is, I can guarantee you some improvement because I know what I do works. I just don't know how much improvement you're going to get, whether it's going to be the top of page one or maybe the bottom of page one, somewhere on page two. I will work as hard as I can and use all my skills and technology that I have available to me, but guarantees are just nearly impossible to give. I mean, the best thing you can do as an agency, I suppose, or as a provider, is to show case studies and examples of clients who you had success for, and say, right, hopefully we can do something similar for you. But like I said, there is no such thing as guarantees in SEO world. Which exactly is what Google actually likes about SEO, because it makes AdWords a much more attractive proposition, where you just throw money at Google ads and you get traffic, and there's a very instant and direct correlation between them. SEO is a bit of a tougher sell, because you throw money at it and 3 to 6 months later you might see results and you don't even know how many results. Fortunately, most traffic to websites is still from organic search rather than pay-per-click. So it's an interesting ecosystem there, and the smart companies tend to invest in both. But SEO is, yes, a harder sell, but the rewards can be much greater than if you just throw money at advertising.
Do you see any? I read recently that Yahoo is increasing in its user base. I don't know if that's within Europe and the US, maybe more so in Asia. Is Google going to remain dominant in the search market, you think, for the foreseeable future?
Yeah. Yahoo is an interesting search engine to keep an eye on, with Marissa Mayer at the helm, and they've made this new deal with Firefox to become the default browser. They're talking to Apple to become the iOS default search engine. And there are some rumors they might be wanting to launch their own search engine again, rather than just use Microsoft's Bing. How much truth in there is, I'm not entirely sure, but it's interesting to keep an eye on. They're definitely working hard at reclaiming a larger share of the search market. But for the foreseeable future, I fully expect Google to remain entirely dominant in web search and mobile search because of their strong brand name and because of the big reputation they have for being, a very good and reliable search engine. Even though in some blind tests that have been performed, Bing search results and Google search results are viewed as nearly equal, or Bing sometimes even better in quality when you strip out the branding, so people don't know which search engine they're using. But Google has such a powerful brand that people just trust Google search results more than they would trust Bing's search results. Yeah. What I think is really interesting is voice-based search, and what Microsoft is going to be doing in the near future with their Cortana voice search engine. Which anybody who's ever used Apple Siri, for example, will know it's a real pain to use. Whereas I've seen demos of Cortana that are nearly flawless, and it's a very powerful technology, and I think Microsoft is putting a lot of money and effort behind that, especially in combination with their new Spartan browser, which will have Cortana fully integrated, so you can literally just talk to your computer and the browser will search for you, which cuts out the typing entirely. So that's an interesting potential challenge for Google to overcome in the near future.
Okay, interesting. Okay, well, our 50 minutes is up, Barry. Actually, it went very fast. So I'm just going to see if there's any questions that have come in. Excuse me, I've got a terrible cough today, so sorry to everybody that has to listen to me stutter. One question here. There's a rise of security as a ranking signal. I have also read that too, that Google are perhaps giving preference to websites that have HTTPS in their protocol. How, and there is, I think, a market opening up for cheaper and more accessible SSL certificates for websites as well. Do you think that's how the web is going? It's becoming secure, and that needs to be a factor that businesses take into account for ranking?
Yeah, I mean, security on the web in general is something that will only become more and more important. For example, if you have a WordPress website and you use the standard WordPress directories and WordPress logins, you are an easy target for hackers. When it comes to HTTPS as a ranking factor, Google have announced it's a very small ranking factor. I've done a test on my own website the moment it was announced to see if it had any beneficial impact. But when you switch your website from HTTP to HTTPS, it counts pretty much as a full site migration. So you will always see a dip in traffic before things bounce back to normal or see any improvement. So it's something you want to be really careful about, just making the switch to SSL. Right now, I would only recommend it to do it if you do it as a part of a larger site migration anyway. If you're going to migrate your website to a new domain, or you have a complete overhaul of the website with entirely new URLs and you have to do redirects anyway, then you might also say, right, let's put the SSL migration in there at the same time. But as a standalone factor to implement, I would not recommend it for businesses to do that at this time. It has very low ranking value at this moment. But yeah, security in general is something you want to pay a lot of attention to, especially if you have an e-commerce website and you have users' data that you store on your own web server, and make sure that that's encrypted and as secure as it can be, because if it gets hacked, you can be liable for it. And hacking is only going to become more and more prolific the more people go online around the world.
Another thing as well, just around mobile-friendly websites or mobile-optimized websites. Excuse me. Google have said that they do give preference now to websites that are fully responsive. So the days of having mobile themes or mobile-specific websites versus your desktop view are almost seem a little bit archaic now. Is there anything else to bear in mind for mobile optimization? Obviously, make sure you're on a map and so on. Incorporate any local SEO into the content within your pages, like your phone number, your address, contact information, things like that. Is there anything else that is, I don't know, needs to be considered more highly to make sure that you are covering that mobile search market a bit more effectively? Because you tend to get different results on desktop versus mobile, I've noticed.
Yes, Google of course gives preference to mobile optimized websites for mobile search. What I find a lot of websites get wrong is when they switch to a responsive web design, their load speed actually decreases. It becomes a slower website because of the extra CSS code and images you have to put in for a responsive website versus that of a separate mobile theme. But Google does prefer responsive websites because it makes it easier for Google's crawlers and indexers to have just one URL for a piece of content rather than two different URLs and two different websites, basically. So spend effort on optimizing the load speed of your website. Make sure your mobile website is as fast as it can be.
The page, things like that. Yeah.
Yes, the faster it loads, the better. Ideally under a second, second and a half, if you can manage that. And of course, make sure that you think about what the use case of a mobile user is versus a desktop user when you map out your responsive web design, and what is most important on your website for a mobile user versus a tablet user versus a desktop user. You know, if you have an e-commerce website and you also have brick and mortar stores, when people are on your mobile website, you probably want to put your address details and your phone numbers a bit more front and center than on your full desktop experience where you want people to actually buy stuff and then go to the checkout. So have a good think about that, because engagement with your website in general is becoming more and more important. And we see now that Google is using what they call the return to search signal more and more, where people click on a result and then go back to Google search results and click on another result. If that happens a lot with your website, i.e. if you have a lot of bounces on your website from search back to Google search results, Google will understand your website is not the best result to show and might rank you lower in subsequent searches.
So if your bounce rate is particularly high compared to your desktop, it's pretty much a signal that your website is not performing very well for mobile users. So perhaps the bounce rate might be something to keep an eye on in analytics, for example.
Absolutely. The bounce rate in general is an important metric to keep track of, but you always need to put it in context. Like you said, separate it out with segments versus desktop versus mobile, even smartphone versus tablet, and look at where the real problems are for which type of visitor you get to your website. You know, looking at the data in aggregate and saying, oh, we have a 35% bounce rate, that's useless. Go into detail into your analytics, see what kind of users have what kind of experience on your website, and try to optimize your site for the best engagement on all platforms, really.
Yeah, and I think analytics, you can actually drill down now to see what browser, what version of the browser, and I think even what device or operating system people are using. So you can get very specific information on exactly where or why people are leaving, because maybe that your site just doesn't work on an Apple device versus an Android device, and analytics will communicate that to you quite effectively.
Yes, Google Analytics as a free platform has incredible amount of detail and data available to you, so it'd be a crime not to make use of that. And yes, you can see exactly what device they're using, the size of their screen, the version of the operating system, etc., etc., etc. So you would know exactly where things go wrong and what you need to fix, hopefully.
Okay. Okay, Barry, I'm just looking at the time now. It's about 12:25, so I'm not going to keep you much longer. Can I just suggest, I think you mentioned to me that you may have some additional resources that you might be able to share. We'll be able to put them up on the Google Plus event page at a later date once I get them from you. That's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'll send a link to you for the announcement that Google made about mobile usability. And I think the updated structured data testing tool in Google Webmaster Tools is also important for SEOs to keep an eye on, because structured data is going to become more important as well.
Okay, we might talk about that another date. Okay, and if any other questions come in prior to this event, we will try and answer them for you as best as possible. So do keep the questions coming, and we'll respond as much as we can. So I'll just say thank you, Barry.
You're very welcome, Olivia.
Okay, and hope to talk to you soon. Take care. Bye, everybody.